Blog Talk Radio.
Writing your book is the easy part. Promoting your book so readers can find and purchase it is the hard part. Welcome to the Author Chat Show, hosted by author-publisher Lynda D. Brown. Follow us at www.facebook.com/authorchat. And to contact the show to promote your book, contact me at theauthorchatshow@gmail.com. Stay tuned and listen to today's show.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Author Chat Show. I'm your host, Lynda D. Brown. My guest today is author Chris Smith. This is Chris's first appearance on the Author Chat Show, and he's going to be chatting with me today about his book series, Angels Without Wings. We'll be right back to talk to Chris about his books right after a word from today's sponsor.
Authors, do you have a marketing plan and budget to promote your books? The Author Chat Guide to Promoting Your Book on a Shoestring Budget, written by best-selling author Lynda D. Brown, host of the Author Chat podcast, has a list of author service providers eager to help you sell more books. To get your copy today, log on to smashwords.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. For those of you just tuning in, today's guest is author Chris Smith. This is Chris's first time on the Author Chat Show, and he's going to be chatting with me about his book series, Angels Without Wings. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Linda. Thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on, Chris. Since this is your first time on the show, why don't we get started by you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm from Mustang, Oklahoma, which is a suburb of Oklahoma City, right here in the dead center of the state of Oklahoma. Just turned 36 years old recently. I've been married for nearly 15 years, have 3 boys. I've been writing since I was in my late teens. I picked it up more as I don't sleep well at night, and I would have thoughts running through my head. So my mom and I had a good idea just to kind of start writing those thoughts out and kind of fleshing the stories out, and maybe it would kind of alleviate that problem, and it definitely does. It helps me sleep at night.
Absolutely. Welcome to the club. I get my best thoughts about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Absolutely, Chris.
That's me too. I'll keep a notepad beside my bed.
Absolutely. Your book series sounds very interesting. Tell us how you got started writing about the Angels Without Wings series.
Sure. I've had a thought of writing a story about an angel family for about 10 years. It's just one of those things that I kind of slowly took notes, slowly kind of, evolved the story in my own head. And then about 5 years ago, I sat down and maybe a little less than that, sat down and started writing it. Just kind of started fleshing out the story as a whole, kind of trying to go in and write what I thought the characters should be like and what target audience I was shooting at. And so I began to sit down, I think it was 2012, middle of 2012, when I sat down and started writing the first book. And kind of at that point fleshed out book 1, and then it's going to be a total of 5 books. So I fleshed out book 1 all the way through, and then I gave some highlights of the rest of the books and how I wanted to finish it up.
Okay, great. And let's talk about the book series, Chris, because you've got how many in the series?
There's 4 released right now, and I'm in the starting phases of writing book 5.
Great. Why don't we get started, because you have enough time to talk about all of your books. Tell us about book 1.
Sure. Book 1 is called Scepter of Faith. In book 1, the main character's name is Troy Decker. He's 14 years old at the very start of book 1. And Troy's story is really, I guess, it's not a story of hardship at the start, but his life is becoming hard. He's the son of angels in the world. It's in our world. It's not a different world. It's our world. But there's angels and humans that coexist with each other, and
Mm-hmm.
He is an angel. He's an angel, the son of an angel, I guess. And in order to become a fully fledged angel, he has to get five gifts from God. And to get the gifts, he has to do 5 acts of God. So the first book is an act of faith to get a scepter. And so Troy really has to go through a trial of faith in order to receive a scepter. And it's really not just faith in himself or faith in God. Faith in God. It's more of a faith in his friends, faith in himself, faith in his family.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
let's see. Okay, and that's called The Scepter of Faith, is that correct?
That's correct. That's the first book.
Okay, and it looks like that one actually came out in 2013.
Correct, yeah, it was March 2013.
Okay, great. And you have that available for the listeners in paperback, currently on Amazon for $15.74. It's also available in the Kindle edition for $8.49. All right, so book
That's
2
correct.
came out in August, is that correct?
That's correct.
Of 2013? All right, tell us about The Path to Sacrifice.
Sure. Path to Sacrifice is the second book. And Troy, in the first book, he really started growing up a little bit. He's got a core group of 5 friends. It's him, and then there's another character in the book named Angela, who is also an angel in training, and then he has 3 human friends. So in the first book, found out about his angel world, so they're kind of more in the mix in book 2. So in the second book, Troy the gift from God is his robes, the robes of an angel, and he has to do an act of sacrifice in order to get those robes. In book 1 and 2, there's really, in book 1 there's a decent amount of action. In book 2, it really starts picking up. Troy really starts to kind of evolve from, he's 15 years old now in book 2. So he's really starting to evolve more from a boy and starting to make that transition into a man, along with his friends and really with Angela, who is another angel in training with him, like I said, who is kind of his romantic interest. It's a girl he's always had a crush on. During the summers, they go to what is called Passover Hill, what I call Passover Hill in the books. And it's kind of an angel training camp or, school. So during the summertime, they go to this, and he's had a crush on her for a long time, and she was kind of thrust into his life in book 1. And in book 2, he's really trying to, push that relationship with Angela. While at the same time, in book 1, there was set up with a fallen angel named Kyle Downey, who was friends with Troy's parents, and he kind of comes into the mix. He's trying to get to Troy, through Troy's parents and through his friends, and Troy kind of has to start battling the fallen demons, or fallen angels, and the demons that the fallen angels raise.
Great. I'm glad to know that you've got the demons in there because, like you said, they're very important because they also interact with people, and a lot of people just really don't understand that. Has that been your experience when you're talking about the book to other people, Chris?
For sure, and in the books, I kind of made them maybe more tangible. Just to, it's a fiction book, so just to try to bring them out to the audience. But definitely, I've had a lot of great experiences at book signings and things like that with people coming up and speaking to me, just about demons in general, or about their own internal demons and things like that.
Exactly. And these are also written in modern times. Is that correct? These are they're not.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay, great. All right, and then let's see. So book 3. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Love, Sweet Sword. Okay, but that came out. This is volume 3. Came out in February 2014. I love the cover. Tell us about that book, Chris.
Yeah, in book 2 and 3, the covers are actually designed. I designed the covers for book 2 and 3 and 4.
Great.
3, again, came out last year. In it, again, Troy's received his scepter in the first book, received his robes in the second book, and the robes for the second book was with sacrifice. It was a pretty traumatic experience for him, so he's building off of that. He just turned 16 at the start of this book. And again, his relationship with Angela has really started to move along a lot. With the traumatic experiences in book 2, him and Angela become boyfriend and girlfriend throughout, at the start of book 3. So it's really one of those things where he's starting to evolve, like a teenage relationship here. He's 16 years old. So, again, he's an angel. He's moving towards that direction, but, he's also has some strife with his father at this point in book 3. And the Kyle Downey and the fallen angels are really starting to gain some power in this book. And in the first book, I established what the main, moving point of the whole book is called The War for Sin. That's what I call the book, and that's kind of the eternal battle between God and Lucifer. And this is where the angels get involved, and they're kind of God's tools on earth to really fight Lucifer in this war for sins. And that really starts ramping up in book 3. It was talked about a lot in book 1 and 2. But in book 3, the war is really starting to ramp up. Even regular humans are kind of starting to get involved, not fully involved, but kind of seeing that things are happening. And Troy in book 3 is the gift from God as a sword, and it's given for an act of love. Was kind of an area that a lot of people question me about, because they're like, well, why does love get the sword? And that's just always the thought I had. So, with that, going for an act of love with Troy and his relationship with Angela being, pretty high, it goes to there. There's also the relationship with his father, and his grandmother is in the story too, and she's one of my favorite characters, to be honest. And then all of his group of core friends, his human friends, who have really got pretty big parts in the book, and have really started to come together and all grow together as adults together.
Wonderful. Okay, and then book 4, volume 4 came out October of 2014, Hunting Halos, Angels Without Wings. Tell us about that.
Sure. Hunting Halos. Again, Troy started. At the start of every book so far, Troy has turned another year old. So at the start of this book, he is 17 years old. Book 3 ended with a pretty tumultuous battle scene. It's just kind of building off of that. Troy is a little bit more on his own now, coming into his adulthood. He's got his scepter, he's got his robes, he's got his sword. He's only got 2 more gifts to go before he becomes an angel. And he's really striving to get to that point so he can kind of, get some freedom away from, his parents and things like that, and start fighting the war more how he sees he should be fighting it, with Kyle Downey coming down on him and always targeting Troy. Because in the book 3, Troy found out that he's really a central figure and a target for Lucifer in the war for sins, and Lucifer's trying to find a way to manipulate Troy into ending the war for sins in Lucifer's favor. So Troy's really trying to gain strength and really push towards gaining all of his gifts from God, and becoming a fully fledged angel. And throughout book 3, there was some straining in the end of book 3, and throughout there's some straining in his relationship with Angela. So he's trying to mend that relationship at the same time, completing his relationship or continuing his relationship with his human friends, which can kind of become more difficult as the angel world kind of tugs him a little bit harder, and he's trying to stay in tune with his human friends all the time. So, in the books, coming from a male perspective for me, I played football my whole life. So football plays a very small role throughout the books, but it's kind of a small but key role for Troy, because he uses kind of that sport, the human sport, to kind of maintain touch with his human friends. And with Hunting Halos, he really started. Sorry?
Oh, no, I was just saying that's great.
Yeah. Okay. And with Hunting Halos, he's really starting to gain the war for sins at this point is really starting to. It's the fallen angels and the demons are really starting to they're kind of turning the tide against the angels. So Troy has started stepping forward, and with a few other angel friends, with the adult angels, of course. But the focus is always on Troy and his friends. He tries to make a momentum boost back against the fallen angels and try to turn the tide back in the war for sins back against the fallen angels and the demons.
Okay. And tell us about Genesis of a Hero that came out May 25th of 2013.
Sure. Genesis of a Hero is a prequel to the series, or what I call a prequel. It's actually set in the world. It's set 40 years before the first book, and it's actually about Troy's grandmother Denise, who is she's one of the main characters in the book. And at the start, she's kind of an antagonist. At the start of the book, she's kind of she's the old world view of things on people should be this way, and she's very strict and stringent. And at the start, she is developing that role, but she kind of coalesces with Troy through the roles, and Troy sees where she's coming from a little bit, and sees that she's just trying to push him along and trying to make him a better person, make him a better angel. Make sure his faith stays high, as Lucifer is really trying to manipulate him at this time. And with Genesis of a Hero, that steps back and shows the relationship with how Grandma Denise and Troy's grandfather, Grandpa John Decker, became a couple and how they started dating. And in the book, John Decker is dead before the started book one, but he was kind of viewed as a huge hero in the war for sins during his time. He killed a fallen angel before the books had set. That was very powerful, and it's kind of where Troy kind of starts getting his fame is kind of, I guess, passed down to the generations on that his grandpa was this big hero. And Judas of the Hero steps through the start of the relationship between Denise and John and goes through a few of their adventures together.
Wow. Okay, so that's the 4 books in the series. Is that correct?
Yeah, the 4 books so far, and like I said, the Genesis of the Hero is a prequel.
Okay, great. Now, Chris, your books are geared toward the young adult crowd. Is that how you're using? Are you basically promoting in that genre for the young adults?
I have. It's written. I always tell people, about 5th grade and above. I've had a lot of people, at that age read them. But I've also had a lot of people over the ages of 40, 50, and 60 years old who've read them, who came back and given me some great feedback. And that's really, that's been some of my more favorite stories. But, just giving a recent example, here a couple months ago, I had a book signing here locally, and a mother came up and bought the books, and her son was with her, and he was in 7th grade. And he didn't seem overly interested, but she went in and bought them for him anyway. And a couple weeks later, she sent me a message on Facebook through our Angels Without Wings page, and she had only bought book 1. And when she sent me a very nice message saying he hadn't read it for a week, he put it aside, hadn't wanted to read it, and then he finally picked it up and he read it in one day. And his birthday was getting ready to come up, so she had asked if I could bring books 2, 3, and 4 and come to a lunch with him for a birthday and come meet him personally and kind of introduce myself again. And so I agreed to that, and I showed up, and his family was there, so I got to chat with them for about 10 or 15 minutes and shake his hand and take some pictures and deliver the books in person, sign books and stuff like that. It was a really good experience.
Awesome. Chris, it's very important for authors to, especially Christian authors, to write books like this that will appeal to our teens, because we have the alternatives out there are books like The Hunger Games and books that are really not what I wouldn't want my kids reading. Is this one of the reasons? Since you do, how old are your kids currently?
I have a son who's getting ready to turn 14. I have an 11-year-old son and a 5-year-old son.
Mm-hmm.
And you're for sure right. Correct. I really wanted to write a book, with good stories. Like I said, every book has a central theme. The first is faith, which is important for all of us. Second is sacrifice, which is something we kind of can all go through during life and can potentially make us stronger. Third is love. The 4th is redemption, and the 5th is forgiveness. So each has a central theme, but I also wanted to include, not only that, but throughout the books, things like friendship and loyalty, hard work and dedication. Those things are all mixed in throughout the books, and just showing you that everybody has a chance to be great in life, no matter where you came from. And just to really try to focus on that and build good friendships and always look to the future, through faith and move in that direction.
Absolutely. Now, Chris, you're in the Oklahoma area. Are your books available at your local library?
They are, yes. Yeah, the Mustang Health Library has been very supportive. I've had some book signings there and things, and I know the librarian there very well. She's a very nice lady.
Great. Awesome. A lot of authors tend to, a lot of them will go to their library and use that to promote. A lot of them, it's like an afterthought. Oh, I never thought about that. For those listeners, I want to tell you that always remember your library is your friend, because number one, when they purchase your book, they're basically, I used to work at a library, they actually pay full price for it. So you're not getting that discount, and I know you're through Tate Publishing, so I don't know if that really applies to you like it would with those of us that self-publish. But that's a great incentive for you to get your books into the local library, because they will actually pay the retail price to get them in there. If the only place that they can find them would be like Amazon or your the Tate catalog or even the Baker and Taylor catalog. So I think that's fabulous. Let's see. So along with you've done some book signings, you've been at the library. What are the other ways that you're using to promote your books, Chris?
I've got a pretty good Facebook following on Facebook. We're up to nearly, I guess, I don't know if they call them likers or followers, but we're up to nearly 5,000 followers on Facebook.
Great.
I've got a Twitter account, and it's a pretty new, I guess, tool for me. I guess I'm not overly into the Twitter yet. I've done some tweets, but it's just something that still I haven't fully gotten into yet. And then my teenage sons and my middle-aged son talked me into getting an Instagram account because they said all their friends are on Instagram. So it's something that I've really been able to kind of push into that, that genre that I'm really shooting for with Instagram, and not only that, is putting some personal things on there just to kind of try to get get to know me as an author and stuff, as a person a little bit more than just a pure, from the top, here's the book's viewpoint.
Exactly. Now, Chris, do you have a book trailer for your book?
I do not. Well,
yeah.
Book for Set Their Faith on YouTube. They did. Yeah, right when it released on our YouTube video for a trailer.
Oh, Tate is doing one for you?
They did one for Scepter of Faith. I don't have one for books 2, 3, and 4.
Okay. Book trailers are a great way, especially since we have a audience that are so image based. They love video and they love YouTube, so that's a great way to. Do you have your for the one that you do have a book trailer? Do you have that on your Facebook page?
Yeah, I've posted it a few times. It's
okay.
Something I probably need to remind myself to post a little bit more often.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great way to, believe it or not, Twitter, which is actually a social media site that I use, that I've sold a lot of books with Twitter. You can also upload a video from YouTube if the trailer is available on YouTube. Yeah, make sure you do that as well.
For sure.
Okay, and you said you designed the covers yourself. These are great covers.
Yeah, I designed books 2, 3, and 4 myself.
Wonderful, wonderful. One of the things that I actually talk about for a lot of my listeners are either first-time authors or about ready to start a book. I can't begin to tell you just how important a book cover is. That's something that's going to make someone find it on Amazon, look at it, and say, okay, let me click on this and find out what's going on with this book.
For sure.
So you get a great
some feedback from my wife on that's what she is. She's browsing either brick and mortar stores or online. The cover is what she just goes through, scans through, and that's the first thing she picks up is the first cover that kind of interests her. So you got to make sure to put some importance into it.
Chris, you're getting some wonderful reviews on Amazon. I'm sure you're real happy about that.
For sure. Yeah, it's been a great experience. And I've been on Goodreads now. One of my readers I didn't know about Goodreads until after I'd published the first book, and one of my readers pushed me into Goodreads site, and I think the first book has 70 or 80 reviews on there, and it's maintaining like a 4.5 out of 5 rating, and the other books don't have as much, but they're so I've gotten some really good feedback on it and really good reviews and ratings and stuff. So.
Goodreads is an excellent resource for authors because that website is actually made up of readers. So that's definitely a place where you want to be. So I am just so impressed. Go ahead, sweetie.
I'm so sorry. And as a reader, I'm an avid reader, so it's a great resource for me as an avid reader. I mean, it kind of helps you push into genres. Books that I wouldn't find that in my genre. I've always liked fantasy books like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. So it allows you to put Lord of the Rings in there and find. I've read the Chronicles of Narnia series and things too. So it allows you to put those in there, and it finds like books for you. Books that I hadn't heard of that I've really enjoyed now. An author like Frank Peretti, who kind of writes Christian-based fantasy books. I hadn't even really heard of him, and now I've gone on to read a lot of his books, and they're enthralling. They're great books. So they're great.
It's so funny.
For all readers.
Absolutely. It's so funny you should mention that. I was going to ask you if Frank Peretti was an inspiration. His books, definitely, because I actually write a series similar to this for adults. But again, teenagers can actually read it. It's called the Invisible Enemy series. And now let me ask you a question, because this is something as a Christian I struggled with when I first wrote my Invisible Enemy series book. I was concerned about writing from the devils or the demonic angels' viewpoint. Did you have a problem with that when you first started reading your book?
It's actually funny. When I first, started thinking about demons, I actually, because I did a lot of research, and because I include some biblical characters throughout my book. I've always kind of steered away from including exact scripture because at the start of the book I put a disclaimer saying I didn't feel like it's a work of fiction, so I didn't want to include scripture, that was just a personal thing for me. But with demons, as I researched through the Bible on characters, and I tried to research as much about angels and things like that as I could, I thought, I'm going to include demons. So I started some research on it, and I just didn't feel comfortable with it at all. So I just totally made up all my demons out of fiction. I really didn't want to delve into it enough. It made me feel kind of strange. Like I said earlier, I don't sleep well at night. It's a lot of times. So if I figured if I delved into that too much, it would really affect that even more than it has in the past. So I just didn't feel comfortable after I just did a bare minimum research on it. So I just decided to just totally fictionalize the demons in the book.
Exactly. So when you went back and read Frank Peretti's This Present Darkness, and I don't know if you read the sequel, The Pierce in the Darkness, did you feel a little bit more comfortable about the fact that you had demons actually with the central role in your book?
For sure. I haven't read the prequel. I need to put that on my reading list.
Yes,
I'll put that on my reading list for sure. I will, because the series is great. But yeah, for sure. As I write them now, I feel pretty comfortable with them. Just knowing for me they're just purely a made up fiction out of my own head. So it's nothing to do with scripture or anything like that. So.
Excellent. Well, Chris, we're down to our last 3 minutes. Tell us, are you working on a new book right now?
Like I said, I'm in the book. I'm in the starting phases of book 5. I actually have it all the way fleshed out. I go through and I detail out each chapter and put like 20 to 25 bullet points per chapter. That way I have a roadmap. So I'm into about chapter 2 right now, about 6,000 words into book 5, and it'll probably shooting for about the 140,000 word range. So I'm looking to probably finish up the rough draft. I usually try to write 1,000 to 2,000 words per session. So I'll probably finish it up in April to May or somewhere, the rough draft, and then put it aside for a few months and send it out to the people who read it and give me some editing points, and then read it as start the main editing process again maybe in July or so, June or July.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you've been very prolific because according to your Amazon page, you have to date 15 novels, right?
No, I have 6. And one of those I have the 4 of the series, and then I have the prequel, and then I have one that's called An Angel Without Wings, which is just kind of a short, it's only 5,000 words, and it's just kind of a companion novel to book 2. Okay,
now would that be the one that you published in October of 2013?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, great. Now, before I let you go, why don't you tell my listening audience how we can find you and connect with you online?
Sure. Like I said, I have a pretty good Facebook following, and that's where I post a lot of information. You can just search for Angels Without Wings series on Facebook. The direct line is www.facebook.com/Angels Without Wings series. And then we have the Twitter account, which my handle is AWW Book Series. And then it's the same thing on Instagram, AWW Book Series. We have a website, it's www.angelswithoutwingseries.com. And then, again, the author page on Amazon had a lot of information, and on Goodreads has even more information than that.
Wonderful. Well, Chris, I tell you, I wish you all the best. Again, I'm glad that you're writing something that's an alternative for our Christian teens to read other than a lot of the stuff that's currently out there on the market. So I wish you all the best. Honestly, when you get your next book finished, contact Helen so that we can get you back on the show.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me on again.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us about your book. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, sweetie. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, that was author Chris Smith. And again, the title of this series are Angels Without Wings. The books are available on Amazon.com. Please go and check this out. He's got some wonderful covers on here. Very young man that's really doing a great work for the body of Christ. I think this is something that our young kids can really get into these are adult fantasy books and they talk about the post-apocalyptic the times that we're currently heading into. So again, the books are available on Amazon.com. They're available in paperback and also in the Kindle format. All right. So believe it or not, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you here next time on the Author Chat Show. Good night.